A warning to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers this morning. This next story contains the names of First Nations people who have died. A 36-year-old six-year fight for justice will come to a head today with the introduction of Cindy's Law into the New South Wales Parliament. The reforms are in response to the findings of a coronial inquest into the 1987 deaths of two Aboriginal girls, and barrister Julie Buxton represented the family at the inquest. She joins us now in the studio. Good morning to you, Julie.
Good morning, Bridget. Good morning, James.
Good morning. If you could just remind us of what happened to Cindy and Mona all those years ago.
So Cindy and Mona were found deceased by the side of the road next to an upturned vehicle in regional New South Wales, some distance outside of Bourke. They were deceased, and a 40-year-old white male, Alexander Grant, was at the scene, highly intoxicated but largely unscathed.
And what did the coroner find when he investigated these deaths?
So the state coroner, Torres found that Grant had been the driver of the vehicle. He had initially, upon the first questioning by police, had said he was the driver, but upon realising the girls were deceased, then named Mona Lisa as the driver, 16-year-old Mona Lisa. The coroner found, in fact, Grant had lied and he was the driver of the vehicle. Furthermore, and this is very disturbing content, as you've warned the viewers, that he had sexually interfered with Cindy after she had passed.
Obviously, this was just absolutely devastating for their families and for the wider community, but also because it took such a long time to properly examine what had happened to the girls.
Yes, indeed. The deficient police investigation was a huge, devastating impact for the family of Mona and Cindy, quite apart from losing their beloved children. And I do want to pay tribute to Auntie Dawn and Auntie June in particular, and Mona and Cindy's sisters, Kerry and Fiona, who have fought tirelessly since 1987 to bring some justice, some truth to what happened to their children. It was absolutely devastating to lose the two girls, but then it was devastating to be caught in a system where the police just did not do their job to an adequate degree. And one of the things the coroner did find was that she couldn't conceive of such a manifestly deficient investigation had the girls been white teenage girls.
People watching this morning might think, well, this happened, but then what happened to the man who perpetrated this? I mean, that's the most shocking thing about this, right?
Yes, so the coronial inquest was suspended, appropriately so, when he faced criminal prosecution. The charge of interference with Cindy's body, her body was abandoned just days out from his criminal prosecution, from his trial, because it was determined by the prosecution at the time that there was insufficient evidence to determine whether she was still alive or she had passed. And he then faced two charges of culpable driving causing death and was found not guilty by an all-white jury in Bourke in 1990. He subsequently lived out his life, and he died sometime, I think, around 2019, I believe it was.
So, you know, you might think, just going through that incredible trauma, that you would focus on the immense grief that you faced as a family, but instead the families wanted to push for legislative reform. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
They were incredible. So the first legal approach the family made to really complain about the state of the investigation was back in 1990. So there's correspondence to the Attorney-General at that time complaining of the deficient investigation, and all of those items that the family raised at that time were subsequently found to be so by the State Coroner and delivering her findings in 2024. So they have fought tirelessly for all of these years, and it was extraordinary to see the love of the family for Cindy and Mona, particularly the mums and sisters that I've talked about, and their commitment to change, not just for the legacy of their own children, but to ensure this never happens to another family again.
So can you spell out what is going to change with the introduction of this law?
The problem with the state of the law was that when someone has passed and there's been evidence of some sexual interference, but it's unclear whether that interference or that sexual conduct occurred while the person was still alive or had since passed on, it was not. It didn't enable the trier of fact to be certain one way or the other which offence would have been the appropriate offence, interference with a corpse or sexual offending against a live person. So the family hope to achieve an outcome, which we hope will be achieved today, where that loophole or legal technical problem will be no longer available. So hopefully the trier of fact, being the judge or the jury, can make a finding that the sexual interference or sexual conduct occurred, irrespective of whether it can be established whether the person was alive or deceased.
So, I mean, it can, as you say, it doesn't ever bring their girls home, but for the family it's some measure of justice to finally see this from the New South Wales Government.
I believe so. I think it's a great tribute to the hard work that they have done, and a tribute to the love and commitment to their children, and to wanting to achieve greater change for others.
Julie Buxton, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.